Hey everyone! So we are going to talk about the second phase to answering the question why you should heal your digestive system. So last week we talked about more like the biological reasons as to why, so the whole connection between your digestive system and the rest of your body. And that is super important to know because as we learned, when one system is out of balance, then all systems are out of balance. And when all systems are out of balance, that's when disease and illness starts to arise, right? So that's when you can start to see, heart disease, liver disease, cancer, diabetes, leaky gut, IBS, all of these diseases that we tend to see that may have or most likely have been related in some way to your digestive system being out of balance, which then related to everything else being out of balance, creating that, disembalanced body, right? Because your body needs to be maintaining a level of homeostasis at all points, or a level of balance or harmony, is I guess another way that you can put it. So that's what we learned last week. So making that connection between why you should heal your digestive system and the connection between disease and illness and the rest of your body, because when you heal your digestive system, you are essentially healing the rest of your body, is really what's going on there. So this week we're going to talk about your feelings, and why that plays a role in answering the question why you should heal your digestive system, right? Which is what we're doing here. So your feelings are warning signals, and your feelings have a lot to do because of the symptoms that you're feeling, right? Like the constipation, the vaginal yeast infections, the anxiety, the depression, the bloating, gas, skin rashes, brain fog, fatigue. I mean, like it ranges, right? Low sex drive. I mean, so many different variations of symptoms that occur. And each symptom, because you're feeling something that you don't really want to be feeling, or you probably shouldn't be feeling, is making you feel some kind of way, right? I know it made me feel like really awful and terrible, really. And we're going to talk about those. So that's really what we're going to talk about, is your feelings and why that is relating to healing your gut. Because it was a huge motivator, and that's really what it is your feelings should be motivators. And they should be motivators for you because they are these warning signals, right? So they're telling you that something's wrong, something's going on, something's happening, fix it. And so, when you start having these feelings towards them, it really gives you the motivating factor to actually take action to do it. So frustration, let's talk about it. Frustration was the very first emotion that I know I felt when I started getting my symptoms of having yeast infections and constipation. I was very frustrated because I didn't want to have these all the time, right? I mean, getting them every single month, or for the yeast infections, getting them every single month for a year plus just doesn't seem like the ideal life, right? Like the itching, the burning, the redness, the irritation, the discharge, all of that. That's super, super frustrating. And then on top of it, it was even more frustrating because every time I would go and get treatment for it, all it would do was just cure it for that moment. And then I knew that it was going to happen again, and then it was going to happen again, and it just wasn't going to go away. So I was beyond frustrated that I kept getting these chronic yeast infections. I was beyond frustrated that I kept having constipation and the pain from it. I mean, just the pain from it alone was frustrating enough. I was frustrated that I thought anxiety was going to be the rest of my life. I thought that I was just going to kind of be like a walking zombie due to the brain fog and the chronic fatigue. I just thought that this was going to be my life, but I was super frustrated by it. And that frustration is really what caused me to start asking questions, which we're going to get to in a moment. But I have there's three overall feelings that I really want to talk about because they were really, really big motivators for me in my life. So frustration was the first one. And then embarrassment was the second one. I mean, having vaginal yeast infections, especially at the ripe young age of only 15, is really embarrassing. I mean, you know, you're just starting to kind of get used to, you know, all of the changes that is happening in your body, and then all of a sudden, boom, you get smacked with, you know, an illness technically, right, or an imbalance that, you know, is stigmatized a lot, or it's giving a lot of stereotype that, you know, that you're dirty, or there's something wrong with you, or you're gross, or, you know, like just yuck, right? So I grew up thinking this quite often, and I think it had a lot to do, or I think it had a lot of say in my confidence being built up, especially since I had them since I was 15, almost, you know, repetitively over and over and over. And so when you're constantly hearing these things that, you know, it's gross, it's disgusting, you shouldn't have them, you start to kind of like believe it after a while, right? I mean, that's really what was happening, is I was starting to believe that I was gross or something was wrong with me. You know, that nobody would ever want to be with me in any way, because I didn't want to be with me because of everything that was going on with me. So I was really embarrassed by it. I was also embarrassed by the constipation. So I was embarrassed by all of the symptoms, really. I mean, they all bring their own level of embarrassment to them, just in different various levels of degree. But I for sure, the vaginal yeast infections and the constipation were on like the top of the list. And then eczema, or the skin rashes, was definitely another one that played a role, especially when it started moving onto my face. So I was frustrated and I was embarrassed. Kind of some deadly combinations there for sure. Sun's coming out a little bit. Sorry, just get a little excited. Don't always happen here in Portland. So when it happens, you gotta be excited for it. So then pain. Pain is the other feeling, which I know is not necessarily, people might say that it might not be a feeling, but when you're feeling in pain, it definitely is a feeling, right? Like I know, like on a biological standpoint, that it is an actual physical reaction, but the pain that you get from it, like the feeling you get from it is terrible. Nobody wants to be in pain. Like nobody is, you know, running towards, okay, what can I do today to be in pain? It's usually the opposite of like you're trying to run away, you're trying to get away from the pain, right? And by usually, in terms of doing that, it usually involves some form of medication. So either painkillers or Tylenol or Advil, or, you know, like the NSAIDs, or it could be, you know, some other drug-induced therapy that you're using for yourself. I mean, there's other ways as well, but I think living in the culture that we live in, it really is stemming into a culture that, you know, we run towards these medications to relieve our pain instead of asking these questions, which is what I want to get to at the bulk of really what I want to get to, is to why these feelings really matter when it comes to healing your gut, and why you should. So frustration is something nobody wants to feel, me especially. Embarrassment is also something that, I mean, I think I speak for everybody when nobody likes to, you know, be embarrassed. It's not a very fun feeling to have. And we usually try, you know, our absolute best to not put ourselves in situations where we're going to possibly be embarrassed, right? And then pain is something that we all try to run away from. And the pain I'm talking about is usually stemming around all the various symptoms, right? So, I mean, the pain could be associated with your constipation. I know it was for mine. I mean, the pain got so bad at one point that I had to go to the emergency room because I passed out from it. And all it was constipation. And they were like, oh, it's just constipation, you know, go home, take some laxatives, and be about your day. And I didn't question it at first, but now, you know, I'm in a mindset where I can start to question these things. And it's something that you really should, you know, ought to think about and be like, well, why did they just send me off like that? That's for a whole other topic that we are not going to talk about today. So getting back to the questions that I keep, you know, talking about. So these feelings that you're having, or these emotions that you're having, should elicit, or should, you know, bring up questions, right? Why am I feeling frustrated? Why am I constantly embarrassed? Why am I putting myself in these embarrassing situations? Or, why is this particular symptom that I'm feeling embarrassing? Why am I constantly in pain? And how can I get away from this frustration? And how can I get away from the embarrassment? And how can I heal or, kind of like throw away forever the pain? Like, I want to get rid of this. So these are the questions that I'm really referring to in relation to healing your digestive system, is to start getting you on track and to start thinking about, the connection between your emotions and your feelings to what's actually going on in your body. Because you're feeling that way, remember? Because it's a warning sign to you to say, hey, there is something wrong, figure it out, right? Like follow the yellow brick road kind of thing to figure it out. And that's really like a huge portion of it. I know it was a huge portion of it for me to make my motivating factor, to actually take action. So I really think that it would also be yours as well, and and everybody else's, that you're feeling these feelings, and you might be feeling something else, right? It might not be frustration, and it might not be embarrassment specifically. It might be sadness. It might be anger. It might be confusion, or it might be, like you're livid, or you're like beyond angry, right? Like you just, something's going on. Or it could be, you're falling into something, like you're feeling lonely, or you're feeling something else, right? Because these symptoms are like kind of pushing you into feeling this sort of way. So those are motivating factors for me. And that's what kind of started the process of questioning these things, of like, why is this happening? How can I fix it? What can I do to fix it? Can I actually fix it? So that's really what I want you to kind of take away from this, is to start identifying the feelings that you're having, and then start asking questions about them, right? Being curious about it. Is it a part of, your digestive system? Is it a part of something else? Is it, because of the lifestyle that you're having, which, lo and behold, your lifestyle plays a huge, huge role in why your digestive system was out of balance in the first place. So start questioning these things. I would even recommend journaling them, right? Like, so start journaling, maybe write down, like, first you got to identify the feelings that you're feeling. So identify them, write them down, and then start writing questions about them and then answering them, either, through the journal or through, just talking out loud, or maybe talking to somebody that, you love or that you care for, or somebody who you think might be really supportive in this for you. And that can definitely be me and the group here. We've all been through, at least in some way, shape, or form, a small fraction of what you've gone through. I know I've gone through a lot of it. So we've all been there, right? So we all have a piece of understanding. That's really the gist of like this community, is to be there, that safe, non-judgmental space to talk about these things, because talking about these feelings, especially the embarrassment, can be really hard. Right? Like, it took me years to be okay with it, to even talk about it. Like, I never thought that I would ever be in front of, a camera talking about my embarrassing, lifetime of my yeast infections. Never in a million years did I think that was going to happen. But I worked through this process of healing, and I'm at that place where, I'm okay talking about it, especially if it's going to help somebody else kind of awaken that part of being like, okay, I do need to heal my digestive system, and something is going on here, and so maybe I should. So, really start to identify those feelings and start questioning, what they are, where they're coming from, and how you can potentially heal them or get away from them or stop feeling them, right? Because they're unwanted. They're unwanted emotions and feelings. So next week, we are going to talk about the symptoms or the treatment aspect of it, and why that plays a role into why you should want to heal your gut. So if you have any questions at all, or if something didn't make sense, or you have any insights, or you just want to share your own personal story, please feel free to do that. You can just comment below, or you can even message me privately, if you don't feel 100% comfortable, really throwing it out there. I'd be more than happy to, kind of talk this over with you, maybe do some brainstorming as well, stuff I like to do. I love to journal, so definitely got a lot of tips there as well. So I hope you found that super helpful, or at least just a little bit helpful or a little insightful, and let me know, how it works for you. All right. Well, then I will see you next week. And we'll talk about those symptoms, those lovely symptoms that you have. All right. Well, have a good rest of your day.